so honored that Dr. George Anastassov, renowned oral surgeon, MD, lots of acronyms after his name. He's been incredible with what he's brought to the cannabis industry. And I would like to invite Dr. Anastassov to start his presentation.
Okay, well, thank you very much. I hope you can hear me. Can you?
We hear you loud.
Yes,
and clear, Doctor.
Right.
Okay, well, wonderful. Thank you, Denise, for organizing, and all the other organizers, of course, this forum. I hope that I can add something to it. I saw it started on a light note, I guess, and I'll hopefully continue the same. I have prepared a presentation which deals with not necessarily only oral health, but with issues that we've been discussing from the very start of this meeting about bioavailability and so on of cannabinoids, about water-soluble cannabinoids, about blood-brain barrier penetration, and so on. So I'm not going to speak about all of these things, but I think it will be worthwhile if I share the screen. And do you see that? That's my presentation today, which will be, do you see the screen, Denise?
I see you. I'm not able to see the screen.
Let me see if I can press a button over here if I need to authorize it, so bear with me.
Sure.
Doesn't give me any controls for that, but if you hit share screen and select a monitor and just make sure it is sharing.
Okay, share screen.
Okay.
All right, files, let's see.
Should give you an option to select what you want to share and then go ahead and start. But
okay, desktop, let's see. Share.
we can play on for a second while he gets that going. So,
well, I'd like to do something off my second album. It's a little jazz number that I like to call I'm Staying Home Too Long. 3, 4.
How about now? Do you see anything?
I'm afraid not, George. Is it a PowerPoint presentation you could email to me real quick?
Sure.
Okay, let me just quickly message
you. Okay, Kron, take it away.
Right, here we go. Down by the lake, I'll never go again. Down by the river. Oh, sorry.
I'm sorry. Wonderful presentation, but can I have the email address, or maybe Denise, I can send
Yes,
it to
I PN'd you the email real quick, George. That's my personal email. You send it there real quick, I can share and do some magical things.
Okay, but nothing has come up. Do you have my email? Anastassov. Oh, okay.
I just, if you look in the chat box, you can email it to me directly, and then that should be working.
Well, I don't see any new address.
Okay. Okay, I'm going to give you my personal.
Okay, let's see. Chat.
Yeah, you should see a private message from me to you with my email, my personal email.
And while I do want to remember everybody viewing at this point, during the rebroadcast, as we post these videos, you're able to, at Canna World Expo, click and find out more information of what we've already shared this lengthy Saturday morning. And we'll be back again next Saturday morning with some new guests covering this very subject. It does tiptoe over into the world of the coronavirus that we're all talking about, number one subject matter, and our doctors and our growers and our researchers are all talking about how this can affect the outcome or perhaps help relieve some of the symptoms that you may be experiencing if you even have a mild dose. The coronavirus, if you are experiencing any type of the symptoms, get immediate attention. This is not taken lightly. I know firsthand experience that these individuals can go from 0 to very, very ill very quickly. I had a personal relationship with a young lady, the youngest and the sickest patient that they ever had at the hospital here in San Diego. That's Scripps. Now, those of you who are feeling the no effects, you are still possibly carrying this. And as Dr. Dino mentioned, you might want to clean up the house a little bit. Some furniture might be removed as weeds are from a garden to get a healthier plant. Some of those ugly chairs surrounding the dinner table that you rarely have been using, might want to stick them out in the garage and brew up a little something to cleanse the air. So please, as you see these guests gathered now, and you have the opportunity to review and rewind, you're going to find some great information, recipes, and other type of crap like that right here as we continue with Canna World Expo 2020.
Okay, Sean, did you receive the presentation?
I am waiting for it to come through if it's still coming. So just pressing, like I said, all the right buttons in the right order, refreshing here, not seeing anything come through yet. But why don't you start off explaining, and when it comes through, I'll quickly share the screen while we're waiting for it to come through.
Okay, all right. So anyway, the talk is about improving the bioavailability of cannabinoids for oral care. And I represent here two different companies. One is called APIRX, and another one is Can2 Biotechnologies. And what are the current problems with the cannabinoids delivery systems? And we saw today coffee with water-soluble CBD and so on. So the problems are the following: that all of these compounds, the cannabinoids, and there is over 160 of them known as of today, they're all hydrophobic. They don't like water. They're water soluble. They're lipid, oil, alcohol, solvent soluble. They're lipophilic. So also when they're ingested, there is the so-called first pass or the hepatic liver metabolism, which breaks them down into toxic metabolites such as the 7, 8, 11 hydroxy THC. We're talking about THC. The CBDs are decarboxylated and so on. So the CBDs don't necessarily produce toxic products, but they interfere with the metabolism of other drugs, such as anticonvulsive drugs and the like. So also, the cannabinoids, they compete with other compounds during their transformation by the cytochrome 450 and other cytochromes during the degradation, in which way they can delay the metabolism of other drugs or enhance metabolism of these drugs. Now they're readily bioavailable if they're presented by combustive methods, without word smoking, cheech and chunk. But smoking is no good. Probably Cron will disagree. And still there is a poor understanding of the cannabinoid receptor interaction and the possible additional chemical functionality of cannabinoids or their degradation products. What can we do to increase the bioavailability of cannabinoids? Well, there are a few things that we can do. We can liposomize them, present them in the liposomal forms. We can microencapsulate them or nanoencapsulate them. And I guess that one of these products that was featured here is a nanoemulsion of CBD. We can use different solvents such as alcohols and others for transmucosal delivery. That's what Sativex is based upon, and Epidiolex as well. But we don't like alcohols, especially given to small children with epileptic disorders, and also adults, the ones who have, say, spasticity, muscle spasticity due to multiple sclerosis, and that's what Sativex is intended to treat, because they're taking most of it. It's not a unique therapy. They're taking other compounds as well to combat the effects of multiple sclerosis. So, for example, baclofen. And one of the most common side effects of these medications is the dry mouth syndrome. So when you have a dry mouth and you're pouring alcohol on top of it, it's not the most pleasant sensation, obviously. Also, what we can do is to alter the molecular composition of these cannabinoids, for example, halogenator with fluorides or chlorines or other molecules, but that creates a new molecular entity and a new molecular entity to pass through FDA or EMA or Health Canada or whatever takes a very long time and is extremely expensive. And of course, we can play on the receptor side. For example, the FAH inhibitors, and that's what happened with a compound called BIA 10-2474, which was developed by a Portuguese company, Bial, during the phase 1 trial in France, 2015. Now, mind you, that phase 1 is just checking the bioavailability of certain compound and also the safety of this compound. Well, a few people died, a few people got into coma. And of course, they started immediately talking about, cannabinoids, the harm of cannabinoids. Now, the fatty acid hydrolase inhibitors, they degrade cannabinoids, but not necessarily, but there are no cannabinoids tested, so it has nothing with cannabinoids, but just to say that playing on the receptor side can be quite dangerous, which happened with this BIA 10-2474. So we created a company sometimes in 2011 called Can-Chew Biotechnologies, and it dealt with chewing gum delivery method as a delivery method for cannabinoids. But we started way before that in the Netherlands with two colleagues of mine. One is a craniomaxillofacial surgeon as well. The other one is a chemist. So we started some 17, 18 years ago. And we looked into chewing gum as a delivery method for a delivery of cannabinoids. And we didn't start with CBD. We started with THC, both with synthetic and with naturally extracted. And we had some good results, and eventually we made a joint venture with an American company who actually to develop a gum with cannabidiol. So we did that with an American producer, but it didn't do too well. And the problem was the dissolution from the gum base, because these compounds, again, cannabinoids, CBD, amongst others, are lipophilic. So they don't dissolve in water quite well, and they bind to the gum base. So I don't know if finally you have the presentation or not, but anyway, we did chewing tests where the people will check the contents of the CBD, and it was 10 milligrams of CBD per chewing gum. And we will test it at 0 time, so before the gum is chewed, and then at 5 minutes, at 10 minutes, at 30 minutes, and then at 1 hour. And we will see that the dissolution of the cannabidiol from the gum was dismal. Most of the cannabidiol stayed inside the gum. So just to backtrack here, why did we use chewing gum as a delivery method? Well, because chewing gum, just the act of chewing itself has quite a few neuroleptic properties. It's neuroprotective, it enhances the focus, it is a stress reducer, and many other things. And we didn't know that when we started, and eventually we were educated by a PhD neurologist from University of Amsterdam. So anyway, we thought that the chewing gum is a good method to deliver, but it was not that easy to get the cannabidiol out of the gum. So again, I hope you have the presentation. If not, it should be available on the website of the conference. We looked into different preparations of chewing gums with 10 milligrams of CBD, and we saw that the bioavailability of this cannabidiol in the bloodstream of the patients was quite poor. At 1 hour, that's where it peaked. In about an hour, regardless of the preparation. So the peak that it reached was around 0.3 nanograms per milliliter, which is very low. And then eventually it fell even further down. So that was not very promising. So how we solved this problem? Well, we microencapsulated the ultra-pure crystalline CBD. So we will use
liposome.
We will use a GMP plants, which there is only one company currently in the world which has GMP plants, and that's Petrocam from the Netherlands. So we will use GMP plants extract in a GMP method certified method, the CBD, and we will convert it into a crystalline form, and then microencapsulate it. And by microencapsulating the CBD, and there are again different methods for microencapsulation. Again, I mean, I hope that you have the presentation in front of you, but not to go into too much detail, but one of them is called liquid solid, when lipid-based formulation is used without any solvents required, and then silica, so-called xyloid, is covered with cannabinoids, and the cannabinoids actually are contained within this sphere, and this way it's protected from the environment, whether it's saliva or gastric juice or whatever. The second technique is spray drying, when the cannabinoids are used with polymer carrier, and the third technique is the fluid bed coating, when you have a core, which is a solid carrier. For example, we use sugar alcohols, and these beads are 355 to 500 micrometers, so that's microcapsules. And the first layer is what is cannabinoid, so it's THC or CBD. In the ethanolic solution, the ethanol evaporates. And the second layer is a protective polymer. And so we use this third method, and we significantly increase the dissolution profile of microencapsulated cannabinoids. And we did that both with THC and CBD, 5 milligrams. And in about half an hour, we had 100%, almost 100%, 95, 99% of dissolution. And the peak continued for about an hour. So this way we solved this problem of dissolution of the cannabinoids. And so that was the intermediary product, the intermediary API standing for active pharmaceutical ingredient. And then when we had the drug product, we had the very same profile, what you can see this slide, where you can see 10 milligrams of THC, which also in about 15 minutes, 15 to 20 minutes releases 90% of its cannabinoid contents. And here we have three different curves, which we have one in temperature of 25 degrees Celsius with 60% humidity, and another one at 40% Celsius with 75% humidity. And we can see that all of them behave very similarly, or I would say the same. So the temperature and humidity doesn't really affect the composition, which is very important for pharmaceutical products. So we checked microencapsulated versus non-microencapsulated CBD, and we saw that we raised the bioavailability, the PK of these cannabinoids over 10 times. So while we had non-microencapsulated CBD, we had a PK of about 0.3 nanograms per milliliter, and when we microencapsulated, according to the third technology, we had 3.5 nanograms per milliliter, which is, again, as I said, 10 times higher. And of course, the curve is, we didn't even measure beyond 180 minutes, which is 3 hours, but it was still on increase after this period of time, after 3 hours, which is very
Dr. Anastassov, if I may interrupt briefly, you have just loaded in a buttload of facts, incredible things. I want to find out, your company, are you producing the something, maybe supplies that I could pick up, a CBG or CBN as the raw ingredients that I could?
Yes, we do produce the raw ingredients. They're all GMP certified because we produce for the pharmaceutical industry. But I believe that even in the healthcare, in the health food, if you will, in nutraceuticals, the same standards will be applied. And what does that mean? That the products have to be from a GMP plant, a cannabinoid plant, and there's only one plant that produces that currently. And they have to be also extracted according to GMP technology, and the final product has also to be certified as a GMP. So because we're talking here about healthcare, because people who are using it are not for recreational reasons. These are sick people. We saw the chef in the morning had a stroke and so on. So I think that it's important to protect the public's health by providing the best materials. So to answer your question, yes, we produce all of these that you mentioned, which are CBD, CBG, CBN, which is a very interesting cannabinoid as well, which happen to be also psychotropic, by the way. There are only two cannabinoids which are known to be psychotropic today. It's THC and CBN. So yes, we do produce all of this, not in industrial amounts, of course, but for R&D mostly. But we do produce it. And as far as products, yes, we have formulated over 30 different products, but it's mostly for manufactured for third parties, not for our own label. We have chewing gum with CBD. It's called Can-Chew gum, CIN-CHEW, which is available if anybody has interest to buy it. And we have oral healthcare products about which I was going to talk about. I believe that was my topic, but I think maybe I'm talking too long. So if that's the case, let me just jump to the oral care if you wish. So, should I?
Yes, please. We're dying to hear it. What other delivery methods, aside from the chewing gum and the tinctures under the tongue, what other delivery methods have you guys decided to go with?
Well, the question here is about bioavailability. Do we want systemic bioavailability or we want local bioavailability? So, for example, if we are talking about patients with PTSD, let's say, or patients with Crohn's disease or irritable bowel disease and so on, syndrome, of course, we want systemic bioavailability for people who are treating epilepsy or whatever. But if we're talking about local diseases, such as, let's say, gingivitis, gum disease, or rectal conditions or vaginal conditions, then we want local availability, not systemic bioavailability. So when we were working on our oral healthcare products, and we were applying for our patents, we had to prove that we can increase the local availability without causing any systemic bioavailability, because if we're using CBD or THC or whatever, and it's only for local reasons, it should not be penetrating into the bloodstream. It should be local. So what we did, we combined the cannabinoids with lactoferrin or lactotransferrin, LTF, and and you can read about this. It's on the presentation, whatever. I don't want to waste anybody's time. But what it did, it coated the oral mucosa and prevented the passing through the mucosal membrane into the bloodstream, but increased dramatically the local availability of cannabinoids, which we want in oral healthcare products. The same goes for if we're treating internal hemorrhoids or whatever, when we want to have a local availability of these cannabinoids. So we did studies to prove our theory and to convince the USPTA, and we used toothpaste A and toothpaste B. One contained lactoferrin and the other one didn't. And then we checked the levels in the blood of CBD, and if you can see this slide, the two lines on the bottom, you can see almost no CBD in the blood even after 2 hours. And of course, the peak on the two upper curves, which is when there is no lactoferrin. So we proved de facto that there is a very high levels of CBD, which was studied in this case, and also we did studies with CBG in the mouth, in the oral mucosa where we eat it, and very little penetration in the bloodstream. So, to answer your question, what other systems there are for delivery of cannabinoids? Well, there's all of these vaping devices and so on, which of course we are totally against because you see that there are a lot of patients, young patients, who are in intensive care units well before the COVID-19 crisis, and these are patients who have been using vaping devices. Now, all of these devices are they're based on cadmium batteries, and cadmium is a very strong cancerogen, and any form of smoking actually irritates the airways, and it's not recommended. So, taking aside the vaping devices, you have, of course, chewables, you have chewing gum, There's another product called CWE that we have developed. It's a different polymer, which also provides for coating of the oral mucosa or pharyngeal mucosa and a controlled release of whichever cannabinoid you decide to use. There are, of course, rectal forms, suppositories, patents on that as well. And you can have transdermal systems, of course. You can have inducers for transdermal systems, so the microperforation of the epidermal dermal layers. So there are plenty of different delivery systems. Again, it's a question of what are you trying? What is your target organ? What are you targeting there? Right. Is it the brain? Well, then perhaps endonasal device, a spray that delivers something inside the nose and penetrates the cribriform plate and hits the cerebral circulation. Probably is the best choice. If you're targeting, let's say, Crohn's disease, ulcerative colitis, and so on, you want a local availability and systemic. So you will have to combine, let's say, a chewing gum with high levels of cannabidiol and cannabigerol, but also local applications such as suppositories. So again, it's all question of what is your target organ. And today there are many different forms of delivery, many different delivery systems. But again, I think the question here is A, the target organ. B, what we are delivering. Can we guarantee that what is being delivered is truly healthy, that it's truly lacking any, I heard before somebody spoke about heavy metals, pesticides, and so on. Because again, the people who are using CBD, these are not recreational users. These are not the ones who are trying to get the high or the psychotropic effects of cannabinoids. They're sick and they're trying to get alternative treatments for ailments for which obviously the standard medications are not performing very well. So I think that it's our responsibility to make sure that whatever we are delivering, we're delivering efficiently, but also that is as pure as it could be.
And Dr. Anastassov, if I may, we talk about delivery. Your products are available throughout the world. Are there issues with delivering those products, say, to Europe or to America? Are there laws that get in the way of delivering that, or are they all completely legal and shipped?
It's a very good question. Very good question. Because CBD still, according to the DEA, to the Controlled Substances Act, is a Schedule 1 drug. It's the same as THC. Denise opened today the discussion that something should be changed, but it hasn't been changed. So as of today, CBD is a Schedule 1 drug. Any extract of the cannabis plant is a Schedule 1 drug. Now, of course, there is this Agricultural Act and whatnot, which provides for hemp extracts where the THC content is less than 0.3% to be qualified as hemp. Well, if you're trying to bring any nutraceutical product from anywhere around the world, whether it's our neighbors from the north, Canada, or from Europe, from the Netherlands, or elsewhere, and if it spells anywhere on your importation documents that it contains CBD, I can assure you 100% that your product will be stopped and shipped back. Or they will ask you for, FDA will ask you for thousands of documents, clinical studies, and so on to prove that this product complies with all the regulations. So it will be a very expensive task, and probably you will lose at the end. Now, in the US, also the regulations are quite strict. You have every state has different acts and allowances. You have states which have recreational laws which allow for certain products, and then you have medical marijuana. And here I would like to say that there is nothing medical if it hasn't been regulated by the regulatory agencies, whether it's FDA in the US or Health Canada in Canada and so on. So to call something medical, I think, is a misnomer. It's not medical. Okay, you want medical CBD? It's available. It's called Epidiolex, our competitor, GW Pharmaceuticals. But yes, they walked the walk. They went through all the hurdles, and they have a product which is naturally extracted CBD, and it's available on the market. So that's medical. But anything else that is out there, it's not medical and will not be such until it goes to the regulatory agency. So if we are shipping active pharmaceutical ingredients, APIs, then there's absolutely no problem whether it's THC, CBD, CBG, CBN, or whatever, because this all works with scheduled permits, meaning that you have to have a Schedule 1 permit, and pharmaceutical laboratories and others have these permits. You need import permit if you're in the US, and you need an export permit if you're exporting them from the Netherlands or whichever other country, but they're regulated and there's absolutely no problem with exporting these substances. But if it's a product which is intended to be used as a nutraceutical, there will be a problem. Speaking about cosmetic products or oral hair products, it's a different act. It's looser regulated, so this will not be in the same category as food or food products or animal feeds and so on. It's a cosmetic act, so it's a different regulatory body, and you will have less problems delivering these types of products, whether it's creams or things like that, or oral hair care products such as toothpaste or mouthwash and the likes.
Wow, that's amazing. You know, we've just hit 12:30 here on the East Coast, I mean the West Coast, and that means it's time for me to put on pants. Thank you.
My pleasure.
Thank you, Dr. Anastassov. I really appreciate you coming on and sharing what you've done in the industry, the inventions that you've brought to the world, and we're super excited to see what's in store through API RX. If anybody would like to reach Dr. Anastassov, you can visit his website, apirx.com. He has an international company. And would you like to say one last word to the audience, Doctor?
Yes, Denise, thank you very much. Kron, thank you very much as well. And everybody else participating for your patience listening to my talk. It might have been a little bit off for this meeting, but please contact me anytime with any questions. I'll be glad to entertain them. And good luck with the rest of the meeting. Great effort. And Denise, love you, So all the best for all.
Now, go put your pants on.
Real quick, can I just interject something really quickly? Dr. Anastassov, it's Snowden, and we interviewed a couple of years ago, and I actually put the link to that episode up on the chat. So if anybody's interested in listening to it, it was an amazing interview that you gave on multiple sclerosis.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. You're very kind. Great seeing you again.
Great to see you again. Thank
Bye-bye.
you for your participation. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.